Can KSI box? KSI is getting back in the ring this month against Dylan Dennis, but his technique and style has been highly criticized and some think he's actually been regressing. So is KSI actually getting worse?
Yeah, so KSI has a very unique approach to boxing, to say the least. A very MMA-esque style. He literally trains in an MMA gym at Shoot Fighters. And even KSI's own former coaches, Vidal Riley and Leon Wills, have recently talked about how his best boxing performance was against Joe Weller back in 2018.
When he first started boxing, it was my job to lay the foundation for his IQ. With that being said, and I stand by this, his best performance is against Joe Weller, where he uses the jab, he uses the space, whilst Weller's trying to cut him down. He's throwing hooks around the side of Weller's guard. He's attacking head and body. It's the most you've ever seen JJ use. The most fundamental punch in boxing is the jab. Since then, there has been a decline in skill shown. He's got faster. He's got more powerful. He's got more athletic. He's got more confident, but I haven't seen an improvement in boxing ability.
So was that actually KSI's best performance? Is he getting worse? Obviously, he hasn't been really full focus and dedicated to boxing with all his other ventures. When he fought against Tommy Fury, he did have this karate-esque bouncing style on his toes, darting in and out of range. He's really trying to play to his strengths, which is just that explosiveness rather than actual technique, because when you look at old footage of him from 2022 even, he did have better technique, his hands up a lot more, and just technically wise, he had decent fundamentals for that level, but it seems like he's kind of been abandoning that and just focusing fully on just his explosiveness and his power, his raw attributes to win fights.
Yeah, a lot of people like to say that starting back in his first fight even against Joe Weller, that was actually the best KSI we've seen, him using his jab, his straights, and even his trainer at the time, Vidal Riley, had mentioned that as well. And I mean, in a way, if you do look at it technically, is the fight where he's really just sticking to the boxing fundamentals and it worked. Of course, it was only Joe Weller and the lowest level of competition he's fought. But regardless, after that, it just seemed like he went a lot more to wilder punches. He's famous for his crazy overhands, his windmills. It seems like he's completely taken a different approach and trying to fully embody that karate style into the boxing ring.
Like when we see someone looking smoky, we think, ooh, we'll get credit for that.
You don't know what's happened. They spent the last 4 or 5 years working on this jumping karate style.
Yeah.
It came into a dead end. It came to a dead end. Now they're talking about, oh yeah, we could do hybrid. So now they got to teach the fundamentals of boxing,
Which we was already doing.
They got to teach. Listen, they got to teach the fundamentals of boxing. So now, because remember, JJ thought, oh, this is my final form. This
Yeah,
form's
he
so
did
sick.
that.
I'm so awkward.
And he did
blah,
believe
blah,
that. He
blah.
did believe
Now
that.
they're saying, hey, listen, we got to go back to 1-2 jab. It's like,
Brother.
know
What was
what
we
I'm
doing in Vegas all them years ago when I had bare hairline left?
There has been some similar styles used in fighting, and parts of his game is effective. It's not like we're just trying to knock it completely. But as for pure boxing style that would be able to take him against harder competitions, maybe like Jake Paul, it just might not be as effective.
Yeah, KSI's style is very reminiscent of UFC fighter Michael Venom Page, who really has a lot of success of just getting in and out, not really getting hit, and that's kind of what KSI's style is based off of, just taking away from his opponent. Against Tommy Fury, for example, he really wasn't able to get started with his jab like he was against Jake Paul. Tommy Fury was letting that all night against Jake, but against KSI, he struggled with it a little bit more. KSI timed him with the head movement and just knowing what Tommy Fury was going to do. So KSI is good at negating his opponent, but he really doesn't mix it up that much, at least against Tommy Fury. Maybe he's changed since then. We haven't seen him in the ring for about 1.5 years now, so his style against Tommy Fury was even criticized, like, how has he been boxing this long and he still throws shots like this? But to be honest, I feel like that style kind of gave him the best chance against Tommy, because if he was to go there, sit in the pocket, trade with Tommy, go jab for jab, go blow for blow, it would not have ended well. He really had to do something different to make it a scrap, make it a different fight, and that's kind of what he did, negating Tommy's jab and just staying on the outside. If he had more variety, he definitely could have taken that fight, but it was just not a great performance. He just stuck to one thing the entire fight for 6 straight rounds, never really mixed it up, never really varied it, which that's what lost him the fight, even though that was really winnable. Like, KSI could have easily beaten Tommy Fury on that night if he just changed it up a little bit, made the adjustments in the ring, which it didn't seem like he did. Like against Logan Paul, he showed that he could dig deep, he can have that dog when he needs it, but he really didn't show that against Tommy Fury, and I feel like that's what really lost him that fight.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you for a lot of those points. I think this style can really work for KSI, and regarding how late he started boxing and maybe some natural gifts he may or may not have, this might be his best option at this point. And for what he wants to accomplish in boxing, it's not like he's trying to be world champion of anything. He stated that multiple times. So for what his goals are, this style could work very well. KSI has some good solid attributes. He's very explosive. He has some decent power. So if he's able to channel that into some more direct and less obvious strikes, he'd be able to channel this style way more effectively. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing to watch out for this next fight, and I think that'll be the real main decider whether or not this style is really going to work or not. If we see similar things to the Tommy Fury fight, then it's really a question as to if he'll be able to beat maybe the guy he wants to beat in Jake Paul. And it's also going to be a question if his camp and his trainers see adjustments that need to be made, because it is a very MMA heavy camp, a very MMA heavy style. It might be harder for them to see what he might need to adjust for a boxing match, even though of course they do train over multiple combat sports. It's just going to be a question for how KSI is able to use it in his next fight.
Yeah, the problem with that and KSI doing the same thing, if he does go up against a decent level guy, and Jake Paul's been doing this, he's been learning the fundamentals for a while, so if he just realizes KSI is just doing the same old entries, darting in with that straight right hand, not doing anything different, then he could just step back, maybe counter KSI. Like you said, it's not like KSI is trying to be a legend, a world champion, but he is trying to beat these guys. He's trying to be the best YouTube boxer. So if that's the case, he's going to have to do a lot more than he's been doing, and he's shown. Now, has he gotten worse? I'd say fundamentally, maybe a little bit, just because how different his style is compared to traditional boxing. He doesn't really jab. He really doesn't set up or plant his feet. He's very light on his feet. He's always bouncing. He's always moving, and that makes for him not really being able to generate that power like we saw against Tommy Fury. He really didn't land anything of significance, even though he did connect with some right hands, but they didn't really do damage. Now, obviously, KSI is kind of outsized there in terms of the fact that guys like Jake Paul and Tommy Fury are a lot bigger than KSI.
And I'm sure against Dylan Dennis, he's going to look a little different. And also, it's probably going to be harder to say because Dylan Dennis is such a level down compared to Tommy Fury. So there's so many factors that go into it. But I'd say overall, it would be good to see if KSI can bring back some of the jabs, some of his straights. Doesn't always have to be looping punches, and something that is able to keep him consistent, something he can switch up with is very important, especially when he comes to fighting the guys like Tommy Fury, like Jake Paul. And it is kind of interesting, the progression of KSI's career, going back all the way from Vidal Riley, who is a boxing prospect in a way looking to come up. And at first he did show the signs of a jab and some fundamental areas of boxing. And then as he developed through his career, even with Vidal Riley, we just saw him more choose to dig deep and throw those wild overhands in the Logan Paul 2 fight, for example. And then from there, it seems like he's kind of stuck with it, but in a way evolved it too, because he mixes it up with some different footwork and some different looks he gives his opponents. So it seems like he went from that and then realized kind of what he was good at, what he was using in the ring, and just built it off that. And it seems like that's what shoot fighters did as well.
So fundamentally, I would say he has regressed a little bit, but it's not like he's trying to be fundamental. It's not like he's trying to be a traditional boxer. So in general, I wouldn't say he's getting worse. It's just different compared to what you usually see in the ring, which is going to be something he has to do if he wants to compete at this level, because these guys have been strictly training boxing for so many years now. Jake Paul, for example, has been dedicated to boxing. He's been honing in on it fully, while KSI is busy with his sidemen, with his music, with everything else that he's doing, and then boxing is just one of those avenues that he's in. So it's not like he's fully focused in the ring. It's not like he's fully focused on training. Yes, he may be still training while he's on tour or whatever, but it's just not the same as being fully dedicated to boxing. So there's already a difference in experience between a guy like him and Jake Paul. So if he wants to make up that ground, I feel like he has to do something different, and that's what he's been doing. So overall, what I say is regress. Fundamentally, maybe, but overall, probably not. So let us know your thoughts in the comments down below on KSI and his boxing career. Is he getting worse? But be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and check out the video on screen on why Dylan Dennis versus Tony Ferguson will not be close.